There are some lakes that seem very peaceful during the daylight hours, but after sunrise, even the soil there smells of fear. Near City, along the seashore, there are large sand dunes. During the day, children play there, people stroll. But at night, those dunes become silent like a graveyard. An old scout tradition. Our scout group had an old tradition that whenever new boys joined, we would take them to those dunes. It was a kind of welcome ceremony. The darkness had already thickened that night. We were about 12 to 15 people. The other scouts' job was to help the new recruits reach the highest point, which we called Baldy Men. My two friends, Artem and Thomas, and I stayed behind a little while. We were packing our first aid supplies. When we started walking, the rest of the group was already well ahead. First realization in the darkness was so intense that only the faint light of the moonlight fell on the sand. We walked without a torch to test our wayfinding skills, but we soon realized we'd made a mistake. Every spot looked the same. Suddenly, Thomas stopped. He raised his hand and gestured at us. "Shut up!" "What happened?" I whispered. "Look over there." Thomas pointed to a bush in the distance. We felt as if someone was moving there, but there was no wind. The bush wasn't swaying in the wind, but rather someone hiding behind it. We thought maybe another scout was playing a prank on us, so we moved on. The man in black. We reached the Baldy Man Hill and met up with our group. Everyone was very happy, but there was a strange dread in my heart. The return journey began. We were descending the hill when suddenly our eyes fell on a low clearing. A man was standing there. He was dressed head to toe in black, his face hidden by a hoodie. He had no light on. He stood completely silent, like a statue, staring at our group. RM said, "This is not our guy." We all stopped. The man suddenly disappeared behind the tree, but after a while, he reappeared from a different direction. He was stalking us, but very discreetly, like a hunter encircling his prey. A scene of theft and destruction increased our speed. The children were beginning to panic. Suddenly, the youngest boy in our group screamed loudly and pointed behind us. When we turned back, our hearts sank. The man was now very close to us. The dim moonlight fell on something he was holding, and it shone. It was a large knife. BGM. Fast-paced chase music. "Run!" Aram shouted. We picked up the small children and started running, falling on the sand. Running on the sand is very difficult. Feet get crushed, breathing becomes difficult, but when death stands behind us, a person feels a surge of strength like lightning. That man was making strange and eerie noises to scare us. Sakai Tank God. We reached the car park, where our leaders and vehicles were present. As soon as we reached the light, the man in black disappeared back into the dark clouds. We reported to the police. A search was conducted, but the only footprints in the soil were ours, and strangely enough, no one else's footprints were found there. People say it was a human, but some old scouts still believe there is a spirit on those hills that stalks us alone at night. At 2 in the morning, when the whole world is asleep, the highway becomes a different world. There is only the noise of engines and the light of headlights that cheer the darkness. My name is Assalam, and I've been driving a truck on long routes for the last 10 years. I've seen a lot on the roads, both amazing creatures and evil people. But that night, it was the longest night of my life. In search of an old forest, I was passing through a mountainous area. The weather was bad and there was a light fog. I saw in the rearview mirror that an old white van without a license plate had been following my truck for quite some time. Initially, I thought it was a passenger, but then I noticed that when I increased the speed of the truck, it would also accelerate. When I slowed down, it would also slow down. The mountain road was steep, and there was no mobile signal. I realized this was no ordinary driver. The trap. Suddenly, the van tried to overtake me, but instead of moving forward, he pulled his car right next to my truck. I looked out the window. The van's windows were black, but the driver's side window was slightly lowered. A man looked at me from inside. There was no expression on his face. He was just staring at me. Then he suddenly turned his car towards me, swerve, as if he wanted to throw me off a cliff. I honked loudly and slammed on the brakes. My truck skidded off the road, but thankfully didn't fall off. Iron rods and dangerous shakes. The van stopped in front of my truck, blocking the road. Silence. Fail. I didn't turn off my truck's engine. The van's rear doors opened, and 3 men climbed out. They held iron rods and large sticks in their hands. They began moving toward the truck. Their eyes were not intent on robbery, but rather something more barbaric. They were about to reach the cabin of my truck when I took a serious risk. BGM. High tension. Fast percussion starts. Escape from death. I put the truck in reverse gear and backed away with all my might. The heavy sound of the truck forced them to back off a little. Then I turned the steering wheel with full force and drove the truck right past their car. They got back in the van and started following me. For the next 10 miles, they remained right behind my truck, repeatedly trying to hit it. I turned off my truck's headlights so they wouldn't know where I was going. The place of deliverance. Finally, I spotted the light of a petrol pump in the distance, where several trucks were parked. The 4 stories we've heard so far were just stories. They were terrifying glimpses of real-life experiences from people who came back from the brink of death. They all had one thing in common. Hunting always happens when you feel alone. Whether it's a friend at a club or a strange car on a deserted highway, the world isn't as safe as it seems. But living in fear isn't the solution. Staying alert is the true victory. 1. Trust your gut feeling in all these instances. Victims already sense something is wrong. If your gut tells you that someone is stalking you, or that someone's words are malicious, don't ignore them. Your mind recognizes danger before your eyes. 2. Social media and privacy people like Javed often find out your location and likes and dislikes through social media. Refrain from sharing your daily life, and especially your home address, on the internet. You never know what kind of person is sitting on the other side of the screen. 3. Never go straight home if you feel like someone is stalking you. Never run towards your house. This will alert the stalker to your location. Always head to a crowded place, a well-lit shop, or a police station. 4. Use safety tools. Always keep the emergency SOS option on your phone. If possible, keep pepper spray or something similar in your bag that can save you in difficult times. Remember, it's better to be prepared and not need it than to need it and not be prepared. Closing remarks. Friends, this world is full of strange people. Some become enemies out of enmity, and some ruin others' lives just for fun. The purpose of making this video today wasn't to scare you, but to alert you. Always be vigilant. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Because shadows in dark streets are not formed only in the sunlight. Sometimes they are waiting for us, even in the darkness of the night.